With me now, Karin Demerjian, who is a congressional correspondent for the Washington Post. Also with me, Shan Wu, who is a defense attorney and a former federal prosecutor. Good to see you both. All right, Shan, you first. He replied to these questions himself. You buy that?
No, I think there is unilateral consensus among any white-collar defense lawyers that there's no way any of us would permit a client to answer those questions himself. If anything, it's a far more likely scenario that his lawyers did the first draft and spent many, many hours trying to get him to pay attention, digest it, and to have him make sure that he can weigh in, because ultimately he has to adopt those. But certainly the challenge with a client like this one would be getting him to pay enough attention and then not having him give any further answers if there's a follow-up, which is a big question, that would be completely at odds with his written answers. But there's no way he wrote those by himself.
And then, Karin, it's unclear at what phase, the Bob Mueller investigation is in, whether it's wrapping it up or not. And you've got Republican leaders in the Senate who are blocking what was a bipartisan effort to vote on a bill that would protect the Mueller probe and make sure that there would be nothing standing in the way. So what's with the resistance to that now?
Well, the Republicans who are blocking that effort, starting with the Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, are either doing it out of perceived loyalty to the president or because they believe that it's unconstitutional to say a presidential order to fire somebody should be subject to the courts almost automatically if the special counsel doesn't believe that they should have been fired. So this is an ongoing debate that's happening. It's a question of, will the Republican leadership let it go to the floor? And Jeff Flake has obviously said at this point, I won't vote for any more of your judicial nominees, President Trump, until the Republican leadership allows a vote on this bill.
Is there much consensus, behind him?
Well, I mean, there's
move?
no other Republican right now that is willing to kind of put their neck on the line quite the same way. He's retiring, and he's been critical of the president for a long time, so he can afford to do this in a way that other people can't, although I think a lot of people are looking towards people like Susan Collins, who have said we should have a vote on this bill to see if she might follow suit. Right at this point, the GOP is trying to figure out what to do, because yes, they can keep bringing Mike Pence onto Capitol Hill to cast tiebreaker votes, but if one more Republican joins Flake, they're stuck. They cannot clear any more of these conservative judges, and that's actually priority number one for the whole party. So at this point, there's definitely, it's going to continue to be discussed, the Mueller issue, because he's leveraged the president's nearest and dearest priority item, or at least the GOP's. How this resolves, unclear though, because the party really doesn't want to step in front of the president on this one.
And now there are other potential chess moves. Shan, Republicans are now, planning to subpoena former FBI Director James Comey and former U.S. Attorney General Loretta Lynch in connection with the Clinton email probe and this Russia investigation. And in fact, Comey has responded via tweet saying this: House Republicans, can ask me anything they want, but I want the American people to watch. So let's have a public hearing. Truth is best served by transparency. Let me know when is convenient. So it's like your move, chess move one, next move. What do you make of this?
That's a very clever move on Comey's part, really showing off his longtime legal and political and Washington, D.C. experience. He basically puts the GOP on notice there that you're not going to be able to spin what I say to you. If it's behind closed doors, they can characterize it, do their own takeaways from it. If it's out in front of everybody to see, then nobody can spin it that way, and he lets everyone see it. I think he's also perhaps challenging them to do that because they probably don't want the public hearing. There's not much to control him with. When you ask him a question, he can give what answers he wants. They're going to be bad answers for them, and it will be in full view of the American public.
Speaking of chess moves, how about, preemptively? The president has been rather loquacious this morning. He said, Nancy Pelosi for House leadership, go all the way. And then he went on to tweet, saying some very kind words about, Democrats, from Andrew Gillum, in Florida to, Stacey Abrams. Perhaps, they have, real bright futures ahead. What's going on, Karin? Why is he doing this?
I mean, this is not the first time the president has offered very kind words to Democrats, kind of perplexing people in his own party as to why. And it's certainly perplexing to Democrats as well, because you don't know what he's doing. Is he trying to just make himself look like he's a softer figure and not quite as, hate-mongering towards the other side of the aisle as he was in the run-up to the midterm elections? Or is he trying to kind of back people like Pelosi in the hopes that that sort of a move makes her less popular with some members of her own party, because she has been a polarizing figure? unclear. But the president does make these moves and then pulls them back all the time. He's talked about Chuck and Nancy before as being, people he wants to negotiate with, and then pulled the rug out from under that. So this seems to be, at this stage, this seems to be the president looking towards 2020, as everybody in Washington, D.C. is. The people that he's talking about in Gillum, Stacey Abrams, really did better than they should have in the states that they were running in, given the composition of the electorate right now. And so if that's momentum that builds on itself in 2 years, he could be in real trouble in states that have, been either, purple or decidedly red. And so if he's trying to kind of send an olive branch without saying mea culpa about his tone to voters, this would be a good opening way to do it.
Yeah, thinking long term. All right, Karen Demerjian, Shan Wu, good to see you both, as always. Thank you.
Nice to
Thank
see
you.